goes through everything. But tonight we're going to cover the biblical symbolisms of it, or symbolism of Adam and Eve that's in this film. Yes, you heard me, Adam and Eve. Esoteric interpretation of the society of these apes with what we call forbidden knowledge. And then we're getting into the fasci symbols, and we'll get into Caesar's journey, okay? And that is going to be a real good story to follow into. And so let me give a shout out to those of you that's in our chat tonight and just say hello to everyone. So right now we got Jarrell here. Like I said, Diana, the godmother of the channel, is in the house. Kristen is here with us early as well. Empath is here. Clark from Canadians here. He said, I remember Art Bell had the same grade. That is my guy. Art Bell is my guy. I remember just laying up in the bed as a kid, listening to Good Morning, Good Evening, and all of that. Art Bell, and then this the other one, George Knapp, is another one too. Meemaw is here as well. The Body Electric Supplement is in the house with us tonight. Diana is here with us. Okay, so if I miss you, charge it to the brain and not the heart. We'll get going here. Shay is here with us as well. Maya, our moderator, is here with us as well. And Meemaw, I think I said that already. So let's get going into what we're going to be talking about. And make sure y'all share and like this video if you can. It helps the algorithm and it help us get some things out. So I'm going to do more of a presentation format because I want to give you some visuals. And if you all are okay with that, let me know. We'll get going from that point. Let me put it up on the screen here. So we're going to talk about the planet of the apes. Now, already the symbolism of that, if you are aware, especially from the 1968 movie, you're going to see even on the covers, they use the Statue of Liberty. Now, basically, as we know, the Statue of Liberty is an iconic image here and supposedly represent freedom, or I would say it doesn't represent freedom. It represents I wouldn't even say control. We know that it's not so much of liberty it does, right? But anyway, it is a very iconic symbol. Now it sits out in the water, which is not on land, and which is not, it's more, we have a different law, or maritime law. You can get into that. George Maxwell talks about that all the time. So we will go through that as well. But in the meantime, take a look at this particular image, and we're going to get started where we want to go. And it also bears down to what happened to human civilization when it gets down to us. All right, so there's a lot of stuff in here. Like I said, we're going to go into the Bible symbolism of Adam and Eve that was in the film, the esoteric interpretations of the apes society, forbidden knowledge that they guarded, the fasci symbols, which is really cool. Like a metaphor, which is the bundle of sticks and its historical resonance with Rome and fascism, and Caesar. Caesar's a real important icon in here when you get down to symbolism, and he's like a mythic god-like figure, and especially when you see in our mix between the modern film and the old one. So you'll see some kind of similarities as they redone that. Clark said it was revealed at the end of the movie that nuclear holocaust took place and primitive apes rose to sentence mankind almost a not. Yeah, it was a lot of symbolic stuff in here, but I go deeper than that. We'll touch on some of that right now. So already when it started out, at this point, this is this 1968, and then like I said, I'll bridge the gap to some of the current films. They was already talking about a forbidden place, almost when it came down to forbidden knowledge itself. And so that was always the challenge when it comes down to that. And again, when you go back and you look at it, you want to understand that it was just a whole different story, the forbidden zone, right? It symbolizes the humanity's self-destruction, and as he was just saying, Clark was saying, the result of a nuclear war. So that's how they started within the film. Now, again, this is the scene where the guy broke down when he realized that he was no longer someplace else, that hell was also the place. And how often do we sense that in our own world, where the hell becomes the place and everything else? So here, when it gets down to it, we're going to start with Taylor. Now, this was very symbolic because Charleston Heston played this role. Now, where does it get symbolic here is it had a lot of, if you remember the movie, he came from above. He came from the skies. And what actually happened, the aircraft went into space, got caught up in time or whatever, and then eventually came back. Now he was in a new world, but the apes saw him from the sky. So now already we have Taylor, the character from up above, is now here with the apes. And so that was pretty much, Chris said that movie was traumatic when I was a kid. Charlton was flirting with a girl ape. Yeah. Now, this particular person is Nova. Now, she plays a important role, and one of the reasons here, because I think she functioned as the symbolic Eve, and I'll go through all of that in a little bit. Number one, because she was a mute human. Number one, she couldn't talk. While she wasn't named Eve in the show, her role as Taylor's companion invoked what they call parallels to the biblical story of humanity's new beginning. Because if you remember, or if you didn't go watch it, ultimately the slide that I showed at the beginning was him and her, that they were now back at the beginning. Now, her name is Nova. There is a meaning to that. We'll get into that. The meaning suggests the potential of a new chapter in humanity's story. The ambient, the ones that begins what we call a primitive state. So we can explore how she represented innocence. She represented pre-conscious humanity, and also the possibility of a renewal in a broke world. So once again, you remember, she could not talk. She was just new. Okay. And Nova, yes, meaning new, is where she was when it came down to this. And so that was a very symbolic. And once again, we had Charleston, and as he came into this. Now, they paired them two together eventually. So if you look at the symbolism in this movie, Nova and Taylor there on the left, and the apes and the statues in the back, and then of course, you know, and I thought she was a beautiful woman back then. And I was like, man, she can't talk. That's a tragic, you know, she can't talk. And wow, you know, saying this beautiful woman can't talk. But today, I wouldn't say that I would probably appeal to that, having a beautiful woman that didn't talk. No, I'm not saying that that's the way you want to be, but at least she ain't yang, 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 right? So she couldn't do that. And I remember a scene when I was a kid, he was like, I wish you can understand what I'm saying. He had no clue of what he was saying if he's talking about in today's world. He had no clue. But he was like, oh, you don't have a word with clue what I'm saying. And I was like, really? Really? All right. But back then I was like, oh man, come on, she needs to talk. But today, different story. All right. So anyway, they also had a hierarchy system. And you got to remember that, and in fact, let me go back to the previous slide to my notes here real quickly. Nova and Taylor as a couple represented the rebirth of humanity in a new alien Eden, okay? Because at this point, we're talking about Eden, and in the whole metaphor of the movie was the fact that Eden, or should I say the Garden of Eden, we'll go there. But the whole metaphor of the movie was all to talk about the fact that there was a Garden of Eden, and then all of a sudden mankind was introduced to this Garden of Eden, and then all of a sudden there became destruction, peril, and all the way back to what you saw earlier, the slide that showed the cross that they had up there, or the sticks that represented the forbidden area, or is now in demise. Okay, so that was something that they were doing. And y'all stick around, because we're going to get really deep into this in just a little bit, because I'm at toward the end and middle. All right, so they also represented what we will discuss will be just like humanity. There was, we could say racism, or we can say there was hierarchy, and they had a division in their society just like we do. Okay, they had the orangutans, which represented the religious authority and represented dogma, fundamentalism, and they had what we call the suppression of truth. That was one of the things they did. They also had the chimpanzees, symbolizes intellectual inquiry. They was curious, but just like most of us, curious, and we all got intellect. They was constrained by the limits of the orangutan's story. So then you had the gorillas, the military. We know that's what goes on today. So we have the people, the government, and the military complex. So those three factions operate today in society. So, but the Planet of the Apes. So that makes no mistake that maybe we, the people, were the apes. Okay, we were the apes, or could have been the apes metaphorically. And because the humans was there, we'll get into that, because again, this thing ties into a lot of different parallels when it comes down to Christianity, which I'm going to touch on in a little bit. But if you also kind of notice, so again, I know some of you was pretty young when this came out, but they do have the newest ones today that you can check out and pretty much go into there. All right, so the next part of this, I'm going to break down a few things where I know that the people who created this movie were sending symbolic messages, and we're going to get in a lot of that now. Let's take Nova and Taylor. So once again, they was considered the Adam and Eve of the story, if you don't remember, or as I said already. So the exoteric side of this would have been that her muteness, her symbols of what we would consider divine feminine, her being primal, earth connected to the force of renewal. Because remember, they when they marched off to the new world, they were saying that these two people are the new Adam and Eve. They are now going to replenish the earth until he discovered that he never left earth, so to speak. They also, you got to think about where we are now and going back to the primitive side of life. Humanity's loss of speech and regression to an animalistic behavior represent the loss of higher consciousness. This is what they was trying to say in the thing, much like the fall from Eden, in Genesis, and the loss of the golden age in exoteric traditions. So the stories are similar. You can find, like I say, parallels to these stories. It was not by coincidence or happenstance. This guy did these things. They were sending a message, and as we continue to go further. Now, this is in 1968. This is, before I was born, but this was in 1968, and therefore they already was visualizing not only the nuclear age that we have not come into. It's like they're predicting where we are going and what could possibly happen as we continue down this path. And as we know, being into extraterrestrials or the aliens, and they would come and shut off our nuclear weapons as though they're trying to tell us a lesson. Do not play with these things. There's a lot of symbols in that. The other part was the fact that, in fact, let me break down gematria, the meanings of these numbers. We're going to start with Nova. Nova is Nova. Remember, we're going to be going into a lot of that. I've been doing a lot of studying on that to connect it with symbolism. You can predict stuff in the future. You can see what happened in the past. This stuff is deep when it comes down to this, but I'm just going to give you a little bit here. When you see Nova, the NOVA is 14, 15, 22, and 1. How you do that is you got an ABC, which is 26 divine letters, and then each letter represents a number, 1 through 26. So A is 1, and all the way down to Z being 26. And so this is how you start that. You add those together, which is 14, 15, 22, and 1. This is in the English part of this, and Nova equals 52. Now, if you start going gematria, 5 and 2 is 7. So if you go into the pagorism, not pagorism, but the what's the guy's name? Plato and whatever. But anyway, the Pythagorean, somebody pronounce that. Somebody put it there. And anyway, take my grammar box. Okay, I pronounced this thing twice today, right? And there I'm messing up. But my grammar box is over to the right, and of course the other one is over to the left. And so if any one of you do not feel that just because I messed up, you go ahead and do it. Yeah, yeah, that word, Dr. Strange. Yeah, okay. All right. So anyway, if you think about the mystical interpretations of what's going on, 52 goes to 5, and but it has a meaning. It has a meaning. The 2 suggesting transformation, a new phase, aligning with the concept of nova, a new star. They didn't just pick her that name for nothing. They did that on purpose to symbolize the new world order, the new world. Okay, that was one of the intentions when they did. Oh, Pythagorean. Okay, Pythagorean. Pythagorean, whatever. You got me. I'll get there. I'll do a lesson when I hang up. I'm sure Monica will call me and tell me because she's a school teacher and all that good stuff. All right, it's a tongue twist today. Oh, cool. That's cool. I got y'all. But I much love. But anyway, so if you think about it, the 7 is a spiritual number associated with introspection, wisdom, hidden truth, reflecting on celestial, mysterious qualities of the new world nova. So these people, this was designed, okay? And then let's look at Taylor. Each letter, it came down to 91. If you go on to the interpretation, combined spiritual insight with leadership, independence, but also individuality. He was alone. And all of a sudden, he came as the creator. He came as the new person. So all these things is pretty much, Symbolical. They're playing God over humanity for news. Yeah. I'm studying that now. You can predict what's happening in the news. You can do all of that. Now, when you get down to the orangutan side, they represented authority, dogma, fundamentalism, and suppression of truth. This is an actual scene from the movie. Y'all look real close at what's happening here. This is in the movie. This is when Taylor was trying to give them the truth of origin of life and all of this stuff. Look at that. This is a scene in the movie. Okay, pay attention to it. To the left, you got see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. This was a scene in the movie. They actually did this scene in the movie. So you think they was sending a message at that point? You get what I'm saying? And right there on the left, he got his eyes shut, see no evil. The other one got his ears. He didn't want to hear nothing because they don't want to talk about the evil. And then the one got over his mouth. So they are doing this in plain sight. So imagine as a kid, I'm watching this. I had no freaking clue of what they're trying to say, but they were sending a message. And the movie was about whatever humanity. But I'm a young kid. I was watching this. This came out in 1968. So they're sending stuff out, messages in 1968. You get what I'm saying? And so these people weren't playing when they was trying to put esoteric meanings, symbolism in plain sight. However, that doesn't mean my subconscious didn't know what it was. That doesn't mean they couldn't have been programming me as a child subconsciously, seeing that inundated with, these apes are talking and I'm focusing and they're, and doing the stuff. So that does not mean that they did not do those things. Okay. Now we're going to go into what we talk about fascism. And this is, before we get into the deeper part, this was very a symbolic thing. Let me not bag up, but let me go so you can hear me out. Fascism in today's society, we see it as a totalitarian government ruled by not proxy or committee, by authoritativeship. We see all of these things when it comes down to that. It goes all the way back to Rome, which I will explain here shortly. But the whole point is, what I want y'all to understand is just because today a certain symbol and whatever represent bad or evil doesn't mean, because most of all these things from any of these, from the SWAT sticker we talk about, all these things originated as good power. It's whoever harnessed that power is what they make of it. And I've spoken before when I said that if you have a superhero, he got superhero powers. It doesn't matter if he's on the good side of the X-Men or the bad side of X-Men, he still got the powers. It's the intention or the intent of the use of that superpower when it comes down to this. And so, once again, I want you to think about fascism. And in the scene, there was a scene that Caesar showed the apes, and he talked about one stick was breakable and the other stick is a group unbreakable. Now that has a significant meaning. Meaning, if we come together or things come together, they can rule or be better or protect whatever you want to use the power of it for. But, ladies and gentlemen, the definition of that in our world today is a political ideology that characterize dictatorial power, extreme nationalism. You're talking about it. It promotes centralized government. They're trying to work on this new world order. The regimes, they rely on propaganda stuff and control in the media. So we see it in real time. And I think that a lot of people don't really understand. And so let me help y'all to a point here. This is the Speaker of the House. That's President Barack Obama speaking. This is in plain sight, everyone. There's a fasci symbol on both sides of the House, the left of the Republicans or whatever, Democrats left and right. They're on both sides, okay, representing unity. Yeah, okay, they're saying that the left and right. We're seeing the struggles every day, but they're on the same side, people. While we're fighting, I'm a Democrat, or I'm voting for this person, I'm that person, they're on the same team, dude. They know that. They represent that. Behind the scenes, they're laughing at us because we're caught up in the two sides. But you better believe there's a cabal at the top that's calling and pulling the strings like the puppet master all day long. And yet we're caught up in our daily struggles in life trying to figure out, what's going to happen on the rhino side and what's going to happen on the elephant side. And they keep us at bay, people arguing, people fighting. And when it comes, that's why I don't even do it here on our show. I don't talk about politics because we can all be in bed with trying to find out what aliens. And the minute we break it up, it's a different story, one day or the other. And let me give you the background, the symbolism fascism. This is something that a father fabled, that the old man and his son. An old man gave his sons individual wooden rods and asked the men to break them in half. After each one of his sons successfully broke the sticks, the old man gives them a bundle, and when he asked his sons to break it, they failed, proving that there is strength in unity. And so the unity, the government, the bundle will symbolize unity for the people. We have to look at that as people or what we're doing. And I talk about that in real time all the day long, that it's important of collaboration. It's everything else. And so therefore, this is why I have it in the protection symbol of truth versus authority for the channel, and the shirts and clothing and the hats. There's two fasci symbols right there in the middle of that X. But it's about us coming together to collaborate and protect each other and search for the truth in all of that. So it's in my symbol. So I'm giving the message every day, if y'all sit here and watch, that it's time for us to collaborate. In fact, let me give a shout out to today. I received this disk drive, which is what I told people that wanted to be in our inner circle, that called me on the back end. This was one of their monetary investments, was to get this waterproof, where this thing is going to go with it, because it is so much powerful information. Someone jumped in with us, sent me this thing, so I will be transferring this data to this today, and they will be on the cutting edge of new knowledge and understanding to start their podcast, YouTube channel, what maybe enlighten their families and everything else. So I'm not going to tell you who that person is, but this is the fifth one. And my goal was to get a circle of 10 insiders, that because there's so much information on here, 19,000 audio files, 4,000 or 5,000 videos, ebooks, and on everybody that's out there and things. And I think where we got it from, they had to be in government watching everybody. But these are things all the way back to years and 30 and 40 years you will never see on TV. They blocked them. This is the thing. And so anyway, I just want to thank those people that came on board there. So let's now talk about what I will call House Caesar. This is going to be really important. This is symbolic within the whole thing when it gets down to what's happening, because Caesar's journey mirrors the rise of Rome. If you really pay attention to it, he unites the apes at a village under one rule, much like Rome absorbed smaller cities and tribes into the empire. His leadership begins with liberating all the apes, freeing them from human oppression, but it also it evolved into a conquest, raising more questions about power and control because they became the same way. They became in this thing, they were apes, but again, it changed. So let's go over and pay attention to where I'm going to go with this, because now I'm going to tie it into Christianity a little bit. But this is symbolic in all of the series of the Planet Apes, the old ones and the new ones, and I'm gonna infuse different things in both, and so we can definitely do that. But in the meantime, if you are finding any value in the show tonight, you can support the show right there on the screen. Caesar is saying support the show, and that's very symbolic. So let's get into that right now. All right, so if you get into what's really happening when he was born, now this is going to trip you out once we get into the story of his birth and how all of that came about when it came down to it. Number one, he was born with, well, we'll get in that story in just a second, but let's go into all right, okay, here we go. My bad. I don't miss my sheet here, my notes. Where's my number 3 notes? Okay, well, I'm just going to have to speak it from my thing. All right, we'll do it. So pay attention to the story of Caesar, that he was born almost similar to the Jesus Christ story, where it was a mystical birth, right? Remember, they just found him almost in a manger, in that cage, right? When we go back up to the newer one, the symbolic putting him in red was already that right there. When they laid him into that red blanket, they were sending a symbol of control, everything, a new king has been born, the whole 9 yards when they did this in the movie. So make no mistake about it, they were not playing when they put this together. All right. So, and I'm not saying playing as in threat, but just sending symbolism all the way. So look at it. So if you go to his archetype type, he was a new Moses. He was almost a Jesus symbol. He was there, and you see already, go back in all the older movies, red represented power, whether Moses had power, or you see the dude over the left, his brother or whatever, Ramses or whatever his name was, he had power. And they were symbolizing this with full authority when it came down to what's going on. And so just look at the symbolism. So the directors knew when they put this together, we have a new birth. So remember, it went all the way back to in the 1968 series that it started with, Taylor, the New World Order of things. But now when it takes it back to the new ones today, they do what they mostly do. They take you back to the pre-beginnings or whatever. This is how it happened. So Caesar was born at that lab. It was, and even if you remember, the first thing when his eyes opened, it was a whole, it wasn't blue, but they was green. I'm just saying. But it was a symbolism of change. It was symbolism that something that was different. So with them green eyes was just letting us know he was not like everyone else. He was totally different from all the other apes. And then, of course, he converted them, right? Remember, he went back and he converted everybody to green eyes. All right. So the other part with this, they then start using the paint of red paint. Now, we can take this all the way back to Roman days, the signal of defiance, the signal of a new war. And now he went from this cool looking ape through all. He's now got white face paint, war paint, so to speak. His face is white. The red is all over. He now means business. He is totally different. It's almost the same thing came back with this one when Moses came back with his staff in there. So this is another part that now they've changed him. Because remember, he was all innocent. He was born as the leader in all of these things. And now all of a sudden it changed a lot to where the representation of this red of symbolism. And again, this is all in plain sight. Dr. Strange, like Moses as a baby in the basket. There you go. Okay. So you're 100% correct. So that wasn't done by mistake. It was done intentional because they're following these stories, making movies, but at the same time sending messages, and also what really happening in disbelief or what's going on too. So that's one of the things that is happening. Here's another part. This was a Roman tradition when the Caesar, back in Rome, Caesar, when he was getting ready to go on his spiritual growth or his new escapade of war, there was a ritual to paint the face red, to put the war paint on, and all of this stuff. So that is no different than what you see is happening, that they are signifying that what we're seeing is the rise and fall of Rome. Rome is the rise and fall of our history. It's the rise and fall of where religion began to change in being. It takes us into a whole esoteric storyline. Now, I would encourage any of you to go back and watch as much of it if you can, so that you get the details of things, because I may have missed a lot. But now that I open your eyes that there's a lot of symbolism there, then you can go and kind of like, okay, let me look at this. Let me check that out. And furthermore, we can do that. So I think that's something to pretty much look at. All right. So as we continue, then we became to a point where how we can go into what I call the spiritual side of things. This is when, just like the story of Jesus, just like the story of Moses, Caesar died. Okay. And now he's immortalized. But let's go back into how this connects the dots, though. How does this go into what is happening when it comes down to the information? So let me tie that in. All right. So she says, bookworm, we're getting school. Hey, I appreciate it. There you go. Yes, I meant to say you can use super chat as well. And again, y'all give Mima a shout out, because this is a community funded show. And with all your help and contributions, we do great things together. And so I really appreciate it. And one quick announcement, as I will put back up. Yeah, Caesar was, yeah. So this Friday, once again, Brother Joseph and I will be back here this Friday doing a couple of things. So if you are here, make sure that you come and watch us. We're going to go to some more stuff, and we're going to make a pretty cool announcement for the future of what some stuff we're going to be doing together and all that. So definitely make sure that you all come and check us out. And as always, as you know, I'm going to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And if you're watching from Forbidden Knowledge as a replay or whatever, you make sure that you just come over and subscribe to the channel, and everything that we do here will be cool. All right, so let's continue to where we're going with this, because it's going to get a little deeper now. So as we talk about now, Caesar had died, and then they came in with the new show. And it has a real trigger when it comes down to humanity and religious things that we talk about today, what we deal with. So let's kind of go into here. Just like Caesar, just like the story of Moses, look at that. They put a symbol in this movie that, just like Caesar took his promise, his apes took them to the new land, to the new world, they crossed over the ocean. Now, they used a bridge, of course. Moses split it apart, see, but in the red, that bridge was red. It split the ocean, and Caesar fought and took them all to the new world. They don't make this stuff up. Again, this is just true symbolism, and shows that they're doing coding messages of stories, of biblical stories, but it's hitting our subconscious mind. What do y'all think about that? Give me some comments in the chat when you see what I'm showing you now. That if you remember the scene, Caesar was taking the apes across the sea. Remember, they were going across the sea, and they had battles and people chasing them and forcing them fighting them, but they had to get across to the other side. And then as you look at Moses was taking people, he split the Red Sea or the sea, and they were going through. Same story, same religious connotation, I would say, if that's the word. So what are y'all thoughts about that when you see that now that you're looking at this in real time? It's symbolic. It's very symbolic. The same story, Moses' story, Jesus' story of whatever. And it's going to get more. I got more to show you right quick. But if you get what I'm saying, the directors put this together. Now you understand the Planet of the Apes was us. Those apes were humans, right? Civilization, the New World Order, things were changing, possibly could change the whole thing. So, and let's kind of go to another slide. Now we're going to go into, let me bag up for a minute before I get to this. So what I'm about to do now is got nothing. I am, I grew up in the Christian community. Okay. Let me say that first. I'm a little different now. I'm more of a curious person, and I can't say I'm more of a spiritual person. But what I'm about to show you has nothing to do with me saying this is a blast on Christianity or anything. What I'm about to show you is the evolution of time and how stories get twisted, things change to where, and they did it in this movie. Now, this was probably the most powerful part of the whole series, which was the last show, is though that whoever did that one saying, y'all, because the world is changing, y'all need to wake up to truth, to whatever. If y'all ready for me to go into this, let me know, because again, it may tick a few people, it may not. It's just all about enlightenment, okay? But let me know if y'all with me and the protection is here, everybody's here, because it's just real short, just a few slides. Jarrell said, I did not notice this, but I see that the Planet of the Apes is a story of Moses, but why depict Moses as an ape? It was not so much him as the apes. They couldn't do it Moses' story again. They had to, it is us and the animalistic approach of how humans was. It's like the change of the head, but now be the tail. It's a whole story. Okay, so Nick said, let's go. Christian said, I'm receiving. Thank you. Let's go. All right, Rabbit and Company says, let's go. All right, so let's get into this. If you remember in the newest models, Caesar, when he grew up, he was in the top bit of the house. That's where he grew up. They had to keep him there. And the window that he looked out of had that particular pattern in the window. And so that's what he looked at all the time. Okay. And so the window was there. This is what he saw as he was growing up. Now look to the right. This is going to change a little bit. This is the latest show where that ape, Caesar's dead. He's been dead for years and years and years, generations. But now they're wearing that as a religious symbol of the religion of Caesar now. So the religion of Caesar started him looking out that window. And that's what he saw all his life. Now, all of a sudden, it's a religion there. Now comes in Proximus. He's the new ape. If you remember, go to the latest show. Proximus is now killing people in the name of God. Okay. We know more wars and has been fought over religion. And y'all know that. If you see the newest series, he's killing, he's wiping out, and he's doing the Roman fascist thing. Every new ape city that he conquered, they all come under his rule. And every time he killed somebody, he said, in the name of Caesar, our greatest one, Caesar, the most ruthless, whatever. Okay, so now this is a whole new generation. I'm telling you, they knew that they were sending us messages when they created this show. We are just like that now. So the new religion of Caesar is mercifulness. It's ruled by dictatorship, right? It's all the stuff Jordan Maxwell talks about, all that stuff that they talk about. It's one of those things. It's a powerful thing that comes down to it. Clark said, instead of Christian's cross, it's that symbol. Wow. So just pay attention to, I'm just going to tie it in though. Dr. Strange, the window has 4 outer sections. Yeah, it has a meaning too. That I have a whole, we can talk about it, but we could go into it a little bit. But that whole thing represent a lot. That's for a symbol show. We would get into it from there. But anyway, so Proximus now takes over. He now is the new Moses. Okay. I mean, they don't make this stuff up. Look, this is in the scene. They did. Remember when he did that, he said, it is now, what a new day. It's a new day. What Jordan Maxwell talks about all the time. Jordan Maxwell and David Icke, who I study, which is the foundation of truth versus authority, he talks about that it's going to be a new world order. And that is something for us to go into. Let me play a little bit about what he's saying.
Live in peace and harmony. I think we're being set up for something very serious and very big by some very powerful secret societies that very well could have extraterrestrial or otherworld intelligence guiding it. I am very fearful for the world we live in because we bought it hook, line, and sinker, and all over the world we have accepted the authority as truth rather than truth as the authority. It is going to require intellect, knowledge, study, and making a stand for the first time not to accept the things which your government gives you, which your religions give you, and which the authorities give you. Because as far as I'm concerned, I have a very big problem with anyone called an authority, because they're always...
All right, so that sets the foundation of it all. And once again, if you look closer to this symbolism, let me take it a little deeper for you. This is the scene of the new Planet Apes, the New World Order. Right up there on that boat, they had that symbol. Now, this is their religion. All hail Caesar, the such and such God. This is their godly symbol. Where did they get it from? They have no clue. Remember, the older ape back in this particular slide was the speaker of truth. He knew the truth, and he wanted to make sure that Caesar that's not what he stood for. He wasn't killing people and all of that stuff like this new one was, but he was doing it under the name of Caesar with this emblem, with this as their cross, their church, all of the stuff that they were doing. It was just there. Okay. How do we take this back? And even when he sat at his crown chair, there you were, he's sitting in front of the symbol of God. Okay. And God is who he said Caesar was, and pretty much. Now, let's take you back. This is why I want to take y'all back before we come to the end of these slides. I only have but a few more left, and then we'll have some open discussion. So Caesar's death from the war planet martyred him as a savior, just like Jesus and Moses. And remember this scene, Caesar would always look out the window, and that's where it began. On the right is the fish symbol. Where actually did it begin? We know today it represents what it represents, especially when people driving around with their cars. It's on the back of everybody's vehicles, all of this stuff, people riding around. But do people really know, just like in the movie, which was the message that they were sending, that the apes of today have no clue where the origin of their religion? Let me say that again. It was purposely done in the movie that the apes of the day, which are humans, had no clue of the origin of the religion that they was worshiping, but yet they was worshiping and they was killed under that religion. Fair enough? That's fair enough. So that symbol he was watching out, this symbol people have on their cars, and all of a sudden, you start going back to ancient civilization. You start going all the way back to ancient civilization, and then you go all the way back to the Dogon tribe in Africa. Pay a close attention what I'm about to say. The Dogon tribe in Africa were also the tribe that knew about our star constellations. They knew about space. They knew where the star systems were that even scientists hadn't known. Remember, they knew. They had a ancient, which came from space, taught them where Sirius Star B and all these places were, which our scientists had not discovered until they found that indigenous tribe and told them on some dirt where this was. And all of a sudden, but they represented a fish god called Dogon or Dagon. I'm sorry. It makes perfect sense why they would be called Dogon, because the original god to them was Dagon, which was a fish god. So this is a African tribe. Remember, everything originated there, comes from there, that represented Dagon or Dogon, the fish god, or vice versa. And all of a sudden, now we have this. Is it Rome or the Dogon tribe? Now we have Rome, the Vatican, which we know, we just talked about Caesar tied into Rome, the New World Order, how the representation of the red, all of that, what it symbolically means. Now, all of a sudden, the Dogon's tribe god, which was fish god Dagon, is now used as the Pope, and the head dressing of the Pope, which is the mitra, the hat, the mitre, or whatever, mitra, or whatever the hat that he's wearing, and oftentimes. And it goes all the way back. So where I'm going with this is, now we're talking, how do we get there? How do we get there to the fish? Just like in the movie, they were saying the symbolism of the movie was that Caesar had this on his window. He used to just draw it because that's all he knew. And he drew it when he went into that prison thing, right? And he would write it on the wall just to remember. Other apes saw it and they was like, oh shit, that must be his God he's praying to. No, he just remembered where he came from and he couldn't wait. And they start going, all hail Caesar, all hail the symbol, that's the God. And then generations later, the new Proximals is like, all hail Caesar, and we're killing under religion. Oh, Jesus, or whatever, Moses, whatever. I'm just using for an example for us to think about when you come down to this, all right? And now we can say there was something fishy about it. So you can go all the way back to Babylon, you can go all the way back to ancient Africa, and now you see the mitre with the circles, that's that eye of the fish, is the fish god. Did this lead us, just like everything else, to this story? I grew up Christian, so I'm just saying, is it possible that there could have been some story changes, just like we just seen in the movie, just like the directors were obviously trying to let us know about? They had no qualm in trying to let us know that there is something fishy happening. What do y'all think about that? Put it in the chat, and let me know what your thoughts are. And pretty much when it comes down to this movie, the symbolism of it. And we could have went a lot of areas tonight. I was just trying to go quicker so that you can kind of see what we're going with it. But we're talking the kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And so I will instantly say that that is us. Those apes were us, probably, or human civilization, the rise and fall, all of that stuff too. So what do y'all think when it comes down to that? Give me some thoughts in the chat. Let me put some on the screen. Meemaw says it looked fishy to me. Dr. Strange says, I think the movie is telling the story of Zionism. It could be. And that is worth looking into. Nick says, remember Henry. Yeah, okay. So it's all about humanity. It's all about all of those things. So I think it's definitely there. Clark says, well, I certainly learned some new stuff tonight. I appreciate it. And we have a lot more. If it's, we're going to go into actual symbol. I got some places that I visited. I want to show you some video that's in plain sight. As you driving down the streets, these people, now, again, there's religious symbolism. There's hidden occult symbolism, from secret societies sending messages. And then there's ancient symbolism, and there's power. There's things that they just don't want us to know about. If you find any value, once again, this is a community-funded show. I, definitely, your support is valued, and pretty much, and I just try to make sure that I keep things interesting for you, especially as we're going to go on this journey, as I'm going on this journey, and you all are going on a journey. If you have not, this is new. This ties in all of this. I have some stuff about religion in here. I put together everything that one person could have, so you can bring anyone who's unbeknownst to everything up to speed that I know and knew, and current and non-current things that we're talking about is all in here. Shadows of Deception. I believe that it is a deception, and you can go to shadowsofdeception.com, which is the ebook. You have to put in /ebook, and as soon as you get it, it'll send you a link for your download. Go right into it. It's a good read. Is organized in different areas for you to follow along and learn, and it's definitely the knowledge for someone to get some knowledge. Cristobal says symbolism is everything. Yeah, symbolism is ancient, and so many dismiss it. Yeah, people do. They really do. Cristobal said, "Not gonna lie, as it was mentioned, it hit home immediately." All right, cool. Yeah, and so. And like I said, we could have went a lot of more deeper stuff in that in particular series. So you guys can go back and watch it, and we can talk about it and pretty much really do that. If you want to comment on tonight's show and have something that you want to say when it comes down to symbolism of the show, we're on the topic. I just put a link in the description. You can click it. It'll bring you up in the studio. We'll be here a few more minutes. And then that'll let you talk. So if you want to join me and talk about what we talked about tonight, and give your opinions and thoughts, then I would love to hear from you. And so we'll hang around here a little bit for someone to join us into the show when it comes. But again, man, make sure you don't mind coming on camera, because we don't like hidden faces and stuff and stuff. So we prefer for you to come. But if you're here and you want to join us, make sure you do. One of the things that we are going to dive heavily into is stuff that is happening with us today. And also I'm going to break down a few times what, if you're business owners or you're somebody who, again, I talk about branding, I talk about the importance of that, but I'm going to put things in perspective so that you begin to draw from the power that was given to all of us, and, where you might want to start rebranding your messages and things, that how you're promoting your businesses and everything else for people to come out and do some things. So that's important that you do that. So once again, just for a few more minutes, the link is right there in the description. If you want to come in and comment on the show live, you can just click it, and it'll bring you up in here, and then we can have a conversation and kind of talk about it from that particular perspective, I should say. All right. So with that being said, we're not going to stay here long. We're about 3-4 minutes from the top of the hour, and pretty much. And again, if you found value within to the show tonight, I would love to have your support in the show as well. Someone said, "I love the hat." Yes, I will be placing Wednesday or maybe Friday the hat, so people can buy the blue or the white. And there's 2 different styles. And so I will be placing those so that people can do that pretty much. Darius said, "I appreciate the download." All right, there you go. Thank you so much. Yeah. And right there on the screen, once again, if you want to support the show, it's scrolling, or let me make sure I'll just put the Caesar sign up so that y'all can do that. Right there. The power of Caesar saying, "Hey, support the show." I mean, he doesn't have on any red paint to do that, but he's definitely saying support the show when it comes down to what we're doing. All right, so he said, "Man, that Roderick, that will be a good hat." What he said, that man? Oh, man, Roderick, that will be a good hood zipper design. So where would the thing be on the here on the hoodie on a whatever? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, pretty much. And make sure y'all share the video and everything else, and pretty much. So again, we're getting ready to get out of here. We're going to come back Wednesday. I got some good stuff for you. We'll be talking about occult stuff Wednesday. So we're going to go over some occult secret society stuff on Wednesday. So he said hood zip left chest. Okay. All right. I can do that. I can make a hoodie. I got them. We do everything in-house. All of the printing and hats and equipment, everything is over there. So we do. All right. So I will probably do that. I'll put up some hoodies for people to order and for Friday, and then and get them right out, and we'll make them black, and we can do a couple of colors, I think. Zipper and hoodies. All right, they're not cheap though. Those hoodie things are not cheap, but anyway, it'll be worth it, so people can have, and we'll put it on the left side of the chest. All right, so again, I love you all. Plum, please, and pleasure, as well as a privilege. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I will see you on Wednesday, 8 o'clock.
Peace and harmony. I think we're being set up for something very serious and very big by some very powerful secret societies that very well could have extraterrestrial or otherworld intelligence guiding it. I am very fearful for the world we live in, because we bought it hook, line, and sinker, and all over the world we have accepted the authority as truth rather than truth as the authority. It is going to require intellect, knowledge, study, and making a stand for the first time not to accept the things which your government gives you, which your religions give you, and which the authorities give you. Because as far as I'm concerned, I have a very big problem with anyone called an authority, because they're always...